The scent of pine and frost hit first, followed by the hushed murmurs inside our pack's gathering hall. Bodies were pressed together, a sea of tension and unease. The sound of rapid heartbeats echoed in my ears, even though I couldn't see anyone's faces. Winter solstice celebrations should have been filled with warmth, wine, and song, not this suffocating dread that clung to me like a cold, wet cloth. "Stay back, Emma," my sister Ava whispered, her fingers digging into my shoulder as she guided me to the corner. "The Alpha King is here, and he's not himself." I nodded, gripping the amber pendant hanging around my neck. It was the last gift my mother gave me before she passed. She had been blind like me, but somehow became our previous Alpha's most trusted advisor. "The eyes that truly see lie behind closed lids," she'd always tell me. The pendant felt warm in my hand, a small comfort amidst the chaos. Being blind in a werewolf pack meant living on the edges, especially as an Omega, the lowest rank without strength or skill in battle. Just Emma Steele with pale blue eyes and hair like spun moonlight, as my mother used to describe it. The girl who needed protection and guidance, who couldn't hunt, fight, or even serve food without spilling something. The crowd's anxiety was sharp on my tongue. Their fear had a bitter metallic taste. "What's happening?" I whispered to Ava, turning my face towards the center of the room where the tension felt thick and heavy. The neighboring Silver Claw pack broke the treaty. 3 of our hunters were found dead at the border. Ava's voice cracked. Thomas was among them. My heart dropped. Thomas had been kind to me, always describing sunsets so vividly I could almost see them. Just yesterday, he promised to bring me a sprig of winter holly. The room fell into a deadly silence, and I felt it. A presence so powerful it displaced the air around us. Heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed across the wooden floor. The Alpha King Jackson, vain ruler of 5 united packs, including our Forest Heart clan. I had never been this close to him before. His visits to our remote territory were rare, and I had always been kept away when he came. The silence stretched until it felt as if it would shatter. His voice was deep, controlled, but it resonated with something terrible beneath. 3 lives, taken under a peace banner. I shivered. His voice carried a kind of power that resonated in your bones. "Your Majesty," our pack leader Eli Harper spoke cautiously. "We must consider all possibilities before—" "I've considered them," Jackson interrupted, his words like stones dropping into the silence. "Their scent was all over our dead. Their tracks led straight to their territory. What more consideration does this require?" Something crashed. Perhaps a table was overturned, and gasps rippled through the crowd. "They claim innocence," Eli continued. "They sent an envoy this morning, suggesting another pack might be framing them, trying to incite war between us." Jackson's laugh was void of humor. "Of course they would say that. And you believe them?" I leaned closer to Ava. "Has he always been this angry?" "Not like this," she whispered. "Since his brother's assassination last spring, he's changed. Colder, more ruthless. They say he hasn't smiled in months." The air thickened, charged with something primal that made the hairs on my arms rise. The pack shifted nervously. Some whimpered softly. In werewolf hierarchy, an alpha's rage affected everyone physically. But an Alpha King's fury was something else entirely. A storm that could break not just bodies, but spirits. "I will have justice," Jackson declared, his voice rising. "I will take their territory, their resources, and the head of whoever orchestrated this attack." A female voice interrupted. "Your Majesty, please," said Leah Brooks, our healer. "War will mean more bodies, more children orphaned, more mates left alone. Do you suggest I let the murder of my people go unanswered?" Jackson's voice dropped dangerously low. "Do you suggest I let the murder of my people go unanswered?" I felt the pressure building in the room, his rage settling on us all like an invisible weight. Some began to whine, a primal response to an alpha's fury. My own chest tightened, my lungs struggling against the invisible pressure. "Send me," a male voice volunteered. "I'll infiltrate their pack and find proof of who's truly responsible." "That will take weeks." Jackson dismissed him. "I want action now. I want them to feel what I feel." My fingers tightened around my pendant. My mother had taught me to sense emotions beyond what others could perceive. Behind the king's rage burned something else, raw grief, pain, loneliness. Without fully understanding why, I stepped forward, slipping from Ava's grasp. "Emma," she hissed, trying to pull me back, but I kept moving, guided by instinct rather than sight. The crowd parted silently before me, perhaps too shocked by my boldness to stop me. "Who approaches?" Jackson growled, his attention suddenly focused on me. I stopped, trembling but determined. "Someone who knows the difference between justice and vengeance, Your Majesty." The room fell deadly quiet. I had just challenged the most powerful alpha in 5 territories. A blind Omega dares lecture me on justice. His voice was dangerous, laced with amusement. "Tell me, little wolf, what do you know about leadership, about protecting what's yours, about watching your people die?" I lifted my chin, unflinching. "I know that pain clouds judgment. I know that grief can make enemies where there might be none. I know that choosing war means more funerals, more orphans, more pain." He moved closer, and I could feel the heat of his body, smell the scent of thunderstorms and cedar. "And what would you have me do instead?" "Investigate. Listen, consider all possibilities, as Eli suggested. If the Silver Claws are guilty, they won't escape justice. But if they're innocent, and you destroy them, you'll have become what you despise, a killer of innocence." The room gasped. Someone cursed softly. Ava was probably having a heart attack. Jackson moved even closer. I could feel his breath on my face. "You speak boldly for someone so vulnerable." The threat in his voice was unmistakable. I swallowed hard but didn't back away. Perhaps that's why I value caution over quick vengeance. The vulnerable understand consequences better than the powerful ever can. Suddenly, a large, warm hand gripped my chin, tilting my face up. "Your eyes, they see nothing. These eyes know." I answered, my heart pounding. "But I see things others miss." "Like what, little Omega?" he asked, his voice softer, curious. "Like the fact that beneath your anger is pain so deep it frightens you. Like the fact that you're not really angry about 3 dead wolves. You're angry about your brother. You're angry that you couldn't save him. And now you're desperate to save everyone else, even if it means burning the world down." His grip tightened painfully on my chin, then released. The tension in the room was suffocating. "Everyone out," he commanded suddenly, his voice cold. "Except her." Panic broke out. Ava cried my name. Eli tried to protest, but Jackson's word was absolute law. As the hall emptied, leaving just the 2 of us, I stood frozen, unsure whether I'd just saved my pack or condemned myself. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice softer now that we were alone. "Emma Steele," I answered. "Emma, daughter of Clara West, the blind seer." It wasn't a question he already knew. I nodded, surprised. "You knew my mother. She advised my father," Jackson said, circling me slowly. I could feel his gaze moving over me. "They said her gift died with her. Yet here you are, seeing what others cannot." "I don't have her gift," I insisted. "I just feel things sometimes." "Feel this, then," he said suddenly, so close his chest nearly brushed my back. "Tell me what you feel from me now." Confusion. Interest. A strange, reluctant fascination. And beneath it all, that same deep loneliness I'd sensed before. The uncertainty. "You're not used to being challenged," I whispered. "It intrigues you." His laugh was soft, almost genuine. "Clever little wolf." His fingers brushed my hair back from my face, sending a shiver down my spine. "Your mother once prevented a war with a single conversation. Perhaps her gift didn't die after all. I'm just an Omega, I said weakly. An Omega who walked up to an enraged Alpha King without hesitation. His voice shifted with something I couldn't quite place. That's either tremendous courage or spectacular stupidity. Sometimes they look the same from a distance. I offered a small smile. To my surprise, he chuckled, a rough sound as if rarely used. Indeed. A moment of silence stretched between us, less tense than before. I will delay the attack, he said finally. 3 days for investigation. If evidence clears the silver claws, I'll reconsider. If not, at least you'll act with certainty, not rage. I finished for him. Bold little thing, aren't you? There was that strange tone again, almost gentle. Before I could respond, the doors burst open. Several footsteps rushed in. Your Majesty! It was Leah Brooks, breathless. An envoy from the Silver Claws is approaching under a white flag. They have evidence. They claim to have tracked the real killers to a rogue pack in the eastern mountains. I couldn't see his expression, but I felt the shift in his energy. The rage leashed, replaced with calculation. His hand briefly touched my shoulder. Seems you've bought them the time they needed Emma. As he moved away to meet the envoy, Ava rushed to my side, embracing me fiercely. What were you thinking? She demanded, her voice shaking. He could have killed you with a flick of his wrist. I clutched my pendant, warm now as if it had absorbed the tension in the room. I don't think he would have, I said, unsure why I felt so certain. What I couldn't tell her, what I could barely admit to myself, was how something had shifted in that moment when the Alpha King touched my face. Something unspoken had passed between us, like recognition between two souls who had never met but somehow knew each other. And more unsettling was the certainty that whatever had started between us today was far from over. 3 days passed like a fever dream. The Alpha King stayed in our territory, personally overseeing the investigation. I hadn't seen him, or rather felt him, since that night in the gathering hall, but his presence lingered everywhere, like an inescapable, disorienting perfume. Pack members whispered about his cold efficiency, how he worked tirelessly with trackers and interrogated witnesses with merciless precision. They found evidence supporting the Silver Claws' claims. Ava told me as we folded laundry in our small cottage that the tracks led to the mountain territory. Weapons with unfamiliar markings. The rogue pack's alpha held an old grudge against both our pack and the Silver Claws. So war has been averted for now, Ava said. But Emma, people are talking about you, about what you did. I bit my lip. I only spoke the truth. You challenged an Alpha King at the height of his rage and lived to tell about it. Her voice held both wonder and concern. Some say it's because of who your mother was. Others say it's because you're... What? I prompted when she trailed off. She hesitated. There's an old legend about alphas and their perfect counterparts. About omegas with the power to calm even the wildest alpha nature. They're incredibly rare. Maybe one born every few generations. I snorted. You can't possibly believe that. I'm just telling you what they're saying, she interrupted. But there's more. He asked about you yesterday. My heart skipped. Who? Don't be obtuse. The king. He asked Eli where you were staying, whether you were mated your age. The blood rushed to my face. That doesn't mean anything. He probably just wanted to know about the crazy girl who confronted him. Maybe, Ava said, her tone suggesting she thought otherwise. That evening, I sat alone on our porch, facing the fading warmth of a sun I couldn't see. The pendant lay cool against my skin, and I found myself rubbing it absently, wondering what my mother would think of all this, if she had truly known the former king as Jackson suggested. Had she passed some mysterious gift onto me without my knowledge? The soft crunch of approaching footsteps pulled me from my thoughts. Heavy, measured steps. My body tensed with recognition before my mind caught up. Your Majesty, I said softly, rising from my seat. You knew it was me. His voice held surprise and something else, approval perhaps. Your walk is distinctive. He moved closer, and I caught that now familiar scent of thunderstorms and cedar. May I join you? I nodded, sinking back into my chair as he took the seat beside me. For several moments we sat in silence. The trackers confirmed what the Silver Claws claimed, he said finally. The rogue Alpha has been captured. He'll face trial tomorrow. I'm glad truth prevailed, I said carefully. Thanks to you. His voice carried the same strange gentleness I'd heard briefly in the hall. Your intervention gave everyone time to think more clearly, including me. I shook my head. I only said what needed saying. Few would dare, he said, his voice holding a note of admiration. I'll be sending representatives to identify talented wolves from each territory for special positions at court. Jackson said, his voice calm, but with an intensity beneath the surface. They'll arrive in 3 weeks' time. That's good for the pack, I responded, still puzzled by this sudden change of subject. When they come, Emma, he continued, my name soft on his lips, I want you to present yourself. I laughed, the sound escaping before I could stop it. Me. What possible position could I fill at court? I can barely serve meals without spilling something. His hand closed over mine, halting my laughter instantly. You have gifts you don't yet understand, insights that others lack. The court needs that perspective. I need it. The warmth of his touch sent sparks racing up my arm. Your Majesty, I corrected, trying to pull back, but his grip kept me in place. Jackson, he whispered. When we're alone, call me Jackson. The intimacy of his voice stole my breath. Jackson, I whispered, testing the name. I don't belong at court. I think you do. He interrupted, his eyes locking with mine. You questioned an Alpha King to his face and made him reconsider a war. You're exactly what the court needs. Someone who sees beyond appearances, beyond politics and posturing. His fingers tightened slightly around mine. Promise me you'll come. It wasn't quite an order, but the authority in his voice left little room for refusal. I'll consider it, I managed to say, unsure of everything happening around me. He chuckled softly, a sound that surprised me, as though the weight of his position was cracking. Stubborn little wolf. He released my hand and stood pacing slightly. 3 weeks, Emma. I'll be expecting you. With that, he turned and left, leaving me shaken and confused. True to his word, Jackson left the next morning. Life in the pack should have returned to normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. People treated me differently, some with newfound respect, others with suspicion, as if I had used witchcraft on the Alpha King. You should go, Ava insisted. As the days passed and the royal representatives drew nearer, Ava's voice rang in my ears. This is the opportunity of a lifetime, Emma. I countered. The capital would be completely foreign to me. I'd be lost dependent on others for everything. You'd adapt, she argued. You always do. At night, alone in my bed, I found my thoughts drifting back to Jackson. The sound of his voice, the touch of his hand on mine, the strange connection I felt. Was that what Ava meant about special omegas? The idea seemed absurd, like something from children's tales. Yet I couldn't deny that something had passed between us, something I couldn't explain. 2 weeks after Jackson's departure, disaster struck. A hunting party from our pack, including Ava, was ambushed near the northern border. 2 were killed, 3 badly wounded, Ava among them. I sat beside her bed in the healer's cabin, clutching her fevered hand as the infection battled with the healing herbs in her system. Rogues again, Eli said grimly. But different ones this time, he added. They seem specifically targeted at our pack. Why? I asked, stroking Ava's burning forehead. I don't know, but I've sent word to the Alpha King. Days passed, and Ava hovered between life and death. I barely left her side, talking to her, constantly reminding her of childhood memories, singing the songs our mother used to sing to us. On the fourth night, exhausted and desperate, I clutched my amber pendant and whispered a prayer to whatever spirits might be listening. "Please," I whispered. "She's all I have left." "Not all," came a deep voice from the doorway. I turned, instantly recognizing it immediately. Jackson. His footsteps were heavier than I remembered, the rustle of his cloak filling the room. "I came as soon as I received word." "You came yourself for a pack member's injury?" I asked, surprised. "For your sister," he corrected softly. "How is she?" "Fever still hasn't broken," I said, my voice cracking. "Marissa says the next few hours are critical." A warm hand settled on my shoulder. "I brought my personal healer. She has knowledge beyond what your pack healer possesses." As if on cue, brisk footsteps entered the cabin, followed by the clinical sounds of a medical examination. Jackson guided me away from the bed, his hand firm on my elbow. "You need rest," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You look ready to collapse." "I can't leave her," I protested weakly. "My healer will watch over her." He said, his grip tightening slightly. "I need to speak with you anyway about these attacks." Reluctantly, I allowed him to lead me outside. The night air was cool against my skin after the stuffy cabin. "You've been crying," he observed, his thumb brushing my cheek unexpectedly. I turned away, embarrassed. "She's my sister," I replied. "I understand family loyalty better than most." There was that weariness again in his voice, the weight of his position. "The attacks are connected, Emma. Both the ones from 3 weeks ago and these recent ones." This caught my attention. The same weapon markings, the same tactical approach, but different packs deliberately left behind. First to implicate the Silver Claws, now to cast suspicion elsewhere. Someone's trying to start a war, I realized. "Yes," he agreed. "Someone who wants the packs divided, weakened." As we sat on a bench, I became acutely aware of his proximity. His body heat close to mine, the subtle shift in his scent when he was near. Something warmer, less thunderstorm and more banked fire. "You didn't come just for Ava," I said, realization dawning. "You came because you think I might sense something about these attacks. Your mother had an uncanny ability to discern truth, from lies to sense motivations others couldn't perceive." Jackson said quietly. "I believe you've inherited more than just her blindness, Emma." The use of my name sent a shiver down my spine. "I'm not a seer," I said, though my voice wasn't as certain as I wanted it to be. "You saw through my rage to the pain beneath. You walked straight to me in a crowded room without guidance. You sensed exactly what I needed to hear in that moment." I shook my head, though less convincingly than before. "Coincidence?" he asked, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I don't believe in coincidence," I whispered. "I believe in fate, in destined paths, in wolves finding their perfect counterparts when they need them most." My breath caught. "What are you saying?" Instead of answering, he asked, "Have you considered my offer to come to the capital?" "I haven't decided," I admitted. "The idea terrifies me. What does leaving home or discovering what I might learn about myself even mean?" "Both," he said softly, his voice more vulnerable than I'd ever heard it. He paused, and I sensed the shift in his scent, the quickening of his pulse that I could somehow feel. He was nervous, I realized with shock. The Alpha King. Nervous about my answer, I whispered, the realization slowly dawning. "Why does it matter so much to you?" I asked softly. His hand tightened on mine. "Because in 300 years of recorded history, only 5 Omegas have ever been able to soothe an Alpha's rage with their presence alone." I was stunned. "Because when you touched me, I never touched you." "Wait. What? Then you don't remember?" Jackson's voice had gone carefully neutral. "You approached me again. You put your hand on my face and said something in the old tongue. Words I didn't understand. And then you kissed me." My heart stopped. That's impossible. I would remember something like that. You don't, he said. Interesting. Are you saying I kissed you and then forgot about it? The idea was absurd, mortifying, impossible. Not just kissed, Jackson said quietly. You calmed a rage that's burned in me since my brother's death. A rage I thought would consume me until nothing was left. His fingers brushed my cheek, and in that moment, something inside me recognized him. It was as if I'd been waiting for him without even knowing it. My head spun. This couldn't be happening. The Alpha King couldn't possibly be suggesting what it sounded like he was suggesting. Jackson, I whispered his name, unfamiliar on my tongue. I don't understand what's happening. Neither do I, he admitted, and the vulnerability in those 3 words shocked me more than anything else he'd said. But I know I've thought of little else since that day. I know when I heard your sister was injured. Nothing could have kept me from coming to you. His hand cupped my cheek, now gentle despite the strength I knew it contained. And I know when I leave this time, I want you to come with me. Before I could respond, the cabin door burst open. Your Majesty, came the healer's voice, her tone breathless. The fever's breaking. She's asking for her sister. Relief flooded me. Ava would live. I stood quickly, only to sway, as exhaustion and emotion overwhelmed me. Strong arms caught me, lifting me effortlessly. I have her, Jackson said to his healer, cradling me against his chest. Prepare a bed for her as well. She needs rest. I need to see Ava, I protested weakly. And you will, but first you'll rest. His voice allowed no argument, pure alpha command. Yet beneath it, I could feel the genuine concern. As he carried me back into the cabin, my mind was spinning. Everything he had told me, a kiss I couldn't remember, a connection I couldn't explain, the future I hadn't imagined suddenly unfolding before me. And through it all, there was an unsettling certainty that whatever path I chose, Jackson Vane would be irrevocably part of it. Morning light warmed my face when I finally awoke, disoriented and groggy. The scent of medicinal herbs and pine told me I was still in the healer's cabin. For a moment, panic seized me. Ava. But then I heard her soft, steady breathing from a nearby bed. She's doing much better, Leah Brooks said, quietly noticing my alertness. The King's healer knew exactly which poultice to use. The infection is retreating. It's remarkable. Yesterday I feared we might lose at least one. She paused. The Alpha King hasn't left the territory. He's been meeting with Eli since dawn, discussing security measures. I pushed myself up, feeling oddly self-conscious. Did he stay here last night? Leah made a small sound, perhaps surprise or amusement. No, but he carried you to this bed. And I've never seen an alpha look at anyone the way he looked at you, like you were something precious fragile. Heat crept into my cheeks. You're imagining things. I'm not the only one who noticed, she countered. The whole pack is talking. Some say it explains why he rushed here personally for something that could have been handled by his commanders. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed, desperate to change the subject. I need to check on Ava. She's sleeping naturally now, which is good, Leah said, helping me stand. The King asked to be notified when you woke. Should I send word? The events of the previous night came rushing back, the kiss I couldn't remember. Jackson's request that I return with him to the capital. It felt overwhelming, impossible. Not yet, I said. I need time to think. Leah guided me to Ava's bedside. I reached out, finding her hand. It was cooler now, her pulse steady beneath my fingers. You scared me, I whispered to her sleeping form. She's strong, Leah assured me. Like you. I shook my head. I'm not strong. I just survive. There's strength in that too, Leah said. A new voice entered the conversation, deep, authoritative, yet somehow softened. How is she? Jackson asked, moving closer. Better thanks to your healer. I turned toward his voice. I'm grateful. No gratitude needed. He stopped beside me, his warmth radiating against my arm. How are you feeling? Confused, I admitted, about everything you told me last night. He was quiet for a moment. You truly don't remember kissing me? My face burned. No, that's not possible. I wouldn't have been so forward. Yet you were... His voice held no mockery, only curiosity. Your eyes clouded over, turned completely white, and you spoke words in the old tongue. Then you pressed your lips to mine, and it was like a storm breaking. The rage that had consumed me for months simply dissolved. I shook my head, bewildered. That sounds like possession, not me. Or like your mother's gift, he suggested quietly. Clara was known to enter trances when the spirits wished to speak through her. My fingers found my pendant automatically. My mother never mentioned such things to me. Perhaps she was waiting until you were ready. His hand settled lightly on my shoulder. The old stories speak of special omegas, spirit-touched, they called them, capable of balancing an alpha's power of seeing beyond the physical world. Those are just legends, I protested weakly. Many legends have roots in truth. His fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face, the touch sending shivers down my spine. Since that moment in the hall, I've felt connected to you, as if an invisible thread binds us. I swallowed hard. And if I don't feel the same... His hand stilled. Do you not? The question hung between us, demanding truth. And the truth was that I did feel something, a pull toward him, that defied explanation, a sense of recognition that transcended our brief acquaintance. I don't know what I feel, I whispered. This is all happening so fast. He withdrew his hand slowly. I understand, but I must return to the capital soon, tomorrow, or the day after, at the latest. These attacks require a coordinated response across all territories. And you still want me to come with you? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. More than ever. He said, the certainty in his tone unsettling. But I won't force you, Emma. The choice must be yours. Ava stirred beside me, saving me from having to respond. Emma, she whispered, weak and raspy. I turned to her, immediately relief flooding through me. I'm here. What happened? She asked, confusion evident in her voice. I remember the attack, she continued. Then... Her voice trailed off. You've been ill, I explained, squeezing her hand. But you're getting better now. The Alpha King, she murmured, and I could tell from her tone that she had noticed his presence in the room. You came for both of you. He confirmed, his voice gentler than I had ever heard it. Ava's hand tightened on mine. Then it's true, she said, her voice full of wonder. What they say about you and Emma. Are you saying I kissed you and then forgot about it? The idea was absurd, mortifying, impossible. Not just kissed, Jackson said quietly. You calmed a rage that has burned in me since my brother's death. A rage I thought would consume me until nothing remained. His fingers brushed my cheek. And in that moment, something inside me recognized you. It felt as though I'd been waiting for him without knowing it. My head spun. This couldn't be happening. The Alpha King couldn't possibly be suggesting what it sounded like he was suggesting. Jackson. I whispered his name, unfamiliar on my tongue. I don't understand what's happening. Neither do I, he admitted. The vulnerability in those 3 words shocked me more than anything else he'd said. But I know I've thought of little else since that day. I know when I heard your sister was injured, nothing could have kept me from coming to you. His hand cupped my cheek, gentle, despite the strength I knew it held. And I know when I leave, this time I want you to come with me. Before I could respond, the cabin door burst open. Your Majesty, came Leah Brooke's voice, breathless. The fever's breaking. She's asking for her sister. Relief flooded me. Ava would live. I stood quickly, but dizziness and emotion overtook me. Strong arms caught me, lifting me effortlessly. "I have her," Jackson said to his healer, cradling me against his chest. "Prepare a bed for her as well. She needs rest." "I need to see Alpha," I protested weakly. "And you will. But first you'll rest." His voice was firm in alpha command, yet beneath it there was genuine concern. As he carried me back into the cabin, my mind whirled with everything he'd told me. A kiss I couldn't remember. A connection I couldn't explain, a future I hadn't imagined suddenly opening before me. And through it all there was an unsettling certainty that whatever path I chose, Jackson Vane would be irrevocably part of it. Morning light warmed my face when I awoke disoriented and groggy. The scent of medicinal herbs and pine told me I was still in the healer's cabin. Panic gripped me for a moment. "Ava!" But then I heard her steady breathing from a nearby bed. "She's doing much better," Leah said, quietly noticing my alertness. "The king's healer knew exactly which poultice to use. The infection is retreating. It's remarkable. Yesterday I feared we might lose at least one." She paused. The Alpha King hasn't left the territory. He's been meeting with Eli since dawn, discussing security measures." I pushed myself up, feeling strangely self-conscious. "Did he stay here last night?" Leah made a soft sound, possibly surprise or amusement. "No, but he carried you to this bed. And I've never seen an alpha look at anyone the way he looked at you. Like you were something precious and fragile." Heat flooded my cheeks. "You're imagining things." "I'm not the only one who noticed," she countered. "The whole pack is talking. Some say it explains why he rushed here personally for something that could have been handled by his commanders." I swung my legs over the side of the bed, desperate to change the subject. "I need to check on Ava. She's sleeping naturally now, which is good," Leah said, helping me stand. "The king asked to be notified when you woke. Should I send word?" The events of the previous night rushed back to me. The kiss I couldn't remember, Jackson's request that I return with him to the capital. It was overwhelming, impossible. "Not yet," I said. "I need time to think." Leah guided me to Ava's bedside. I reached out, finding her hand. It was cooler now, her pulse steady beneath my fingers. "You scared me," I whispered to her sleeping form. "She's strong," Leah assured me. "Like you." I shook my head. "I'm not strong. I just survive." "There's strength in that too," Leah said. A new voice entered the conversation, on deep, authoritative, yet softened. "How is she?" Jackson asked, moving closer. "Better, thanks to your healer." I turned toward his voice. "I'm grateful." "No gratitude needed." He stopped beside me, his warmth radiating against my arm. "How are you feeling?" "Confused," I admitted. "About everything you told me last night." He was quiet for a moment. "You truly don't remember kissing me?" My face burned. "No, that's not possible. I wouldn't have been so forward." "Yet you were—" His voice held no mockery, only curiosity. "Your eyes clouded over, turned completely white, and you spoke words in the old tongue. Then you pressed your lips to mine, and it was like a storm breaking. The rage that had consumed me for months simply dissolved." I shook my head, bewildered. "That sounds like possession, not me." "Or like your mother's gift," he suggested quietly. "Clara was known to enter trances when the spirits wished to speak through her." My fingers found my pendant automatically. "My mother never mentioned such things to me." "Perhaps she was waiting until you were ready." His hand settled lightly on my shoulder. "The old stories speak of special Omegas spirit-touched. They called them capable of balancing an alpha's power of seeing beyond the physical world." "Those are just legends," I protested weakly. "Many legends have roots in truth." His fingers brushed a strand of hair from my face, the touch sending shivers down my spine. "Since that moment in the hall, I've felt connected to you, as if an invisible thread binds us. I swallowed hard. And if I don't feel the same? His hand stilled. Do you not? The question hung between us, demanding truth. And the truth was that I did feel something, a pull toward him that defied explanation. A sense of recognition that transcended our brief acquaintance. I don't know what I feel, I whispered. This is all happening so fast. He withdrew his hand slowly. I understand, but I must return to the capital soon, tomorrow or the day after at the latest. These attacks require a coordinated response across all territories. And you still want me to come with you? I couldn't keep the disbelief from my voice. More than ever. He said, the certainty in his tone unsettling. But I won't force you, Emma. The choice must be yours. Ava stirred beside me, saving me from having to respond. Emma, she whispered, weak and raspy. I turned to her, immediately relief flooding through me. I'm here. What happened? She asked, confusion evident in her voice. I remember the attack, she continued. Then, her voice trailed off. You've been ill, I explained, squeezing her hand. But you're getting better now. The Alpha King, she murmured, and I could tell from her tone that she had noticed his presence in the room. You came for both of you. He confirmed, his voice gentler than I had ever heard it. Ava's hand tightened on mine. Then it's true, she said, her voice full of wonder. What they say about you and Emma. I need to return to the capital immediately, and I need you with me. Why me? I asked, still reeling from everything we'd just heard. Jackson's hands framed my face, surprisingly gentle, given the urgency of the moment. Because if there are traitors in my inner circle, I need someone who can sense their true intentions. Someone they won't suspect. Someone they'll underestimate because I'm blind. An Omega. Yes, he admitted bluntly. They'll see you as no threat, perhaps even as a weakness of mine to exploit. They won't guard their thoughts or emotions around you. The logic was sound, if somewhat calculating. And Ava the Pack. I'll leave a contingent of my personal guard here for protection. And once we identify the conspirators, your people will be safer than ever. His thumbs brushed my cheekbones softly. I know this isn't how you wanted to make this decision. I know I'm asking much of you, but I believe you were brought into my life at this exact moment for a reason, Emma. The intensity in his voice made me shiver. And if I refuse, his hands dropped away, then I'll respect your choice, but I think you know as well as I do that something larger than both of us is at work here. He was right. From the moment I'd approached him in the gathering hall, everything had been pulling us toward this point of this decision. Whether by fate, coincidence, or some gift inherited from my mother, I was now entangled in a conspiracy that threatened the entire kingdom. I need to say goodbye to Ava. I said finally the words, feeling like a surrender. Jackson's relief was palpable. Of course we'll leave within the hour, and as he walked away to make preparations, I stood frozen, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life or taken the first step toward a destiny greater than I'd ever imagined. The journey to the capital took 3 days by horseback, with Jackson insisting I ride with him instead of alone. At first I protested. I'd never left our territory before, let alone traveled such distances. But the practicality of the arrangement soon became clear. The constant proximity to him was both unsettling and oddly comforting. His body was a solid warmth against my back, his arms ensuring I wouldn't fall. We're approaching the city, he murmured on the 3rd day, his breath warm against my ear. You'll hear it soon. And indeed, minutes later, a cacophony of sounds reached me. Voices, cartwheels on stone animals, music. Everything blending together in a symphony of life, so different from the quiet forest I'd known. The scents changed too. Smoke spices animals, and too many people to count, each with their own unique signature. It's overwhelming. I whispered instinctively, pressing back against his chest. His arm tightened around my waist. "Focus on me," he said quietly. "My scent, my heartbeat. Use them as anchors." I did as he suggested, centering myself on the now familiar cedar and thunderstorm scent, the steady rhythm of his heart against my back. It helped, though the city's sensory assault remained dizzying. As we rode through what I assumed were the main streets, the crowd's reactions shifted. Hushed whispers, then silence followed by calls of, "The king returns!" Jackson remained tense against me, his body language alert, despite the seemingly warm welcome. "Trust no one," he had warned during our journey. "Not until we know how deep this conspiracy runs." The royal palace, when we finally reached it, was a different world entirely. Hushed voices controlled movements, the scent of polished stone and beeswax. Servants approached immediately, their difference evident in their tones as they welcomed their king home. "Prepare the blue suite in the east wing," Jackson commanded as he helped me dismount. "Lady Emma will be staying there." "The blue suite, Your Majesty?" Someone questioned, surprise evident. "But that's in the royal family's private wing." "Exactly," Jackson replied, his tone brooking no argument. "And arrange for Madame Lydia to attend her. She'll need appropriate attire and orientation to the palace layout." His hand remained at the small of my back as he guided me inside through corridors that echoed with our footsteps. The air grew cooler, the sounds more muffled as we moved deeper into the palace. "Your rooms will be adjacent to mine," he explained quietly. "It's the safest location, and it will allow us to speak privately without arousing suspicion." "Won't that create more suspicion?" I asked. "Placing an unknown Omega near the king's chambers." His soft laugh surprised me. "Court gossip is inevitable regardless of where I place you. At least this way the gossip serves our purpose. They'll be so busy speculating about our relationship that they may reveal their true allegiances." We stopped before what must have been a door. "Rest now, Ed," he said, his voice softening. "Lydia will help you settle in. I must meet with my commanders immediately, but I'll come to you this evening to discuss our next steps." Before I could respond, he lifted my hand and pressed his lips to my knuckles, a formal gesture made intimate by the lingering of his touch. Then he was gone, leaving me in the care of a servant who introduced herself as Lydia. The next hours passed in a blur. I was bathed, dressed in silk softer than anything I'd ever worn, and oriented to my new chambers. Lydia Abeda, with a motherly manner, proved surprisingly helpful. She described each room in detail, guiding my hands to important landmarks. "The blue suite has that name for its azure silk hangings and sapphire accents," she explained. "Though that means little to you, I suppose, but you might appreciate that it's designed for excellent acoustics. Music played here sounds particularly sweet." And she continued her patient orientation, showing me how the furniture was arranged and where to find what I needed, always ensuring I could navigate independently. By evening, I had a rudimentary mental map of my quarters, though the vastness of the palace beyond remained daunting. When Jackson finally returned, his footsteps immediately recognizable, I was seated by an open window, enjoying the evening breeze and the distant sounds of the city. "You look—" He paused in what I assumed was the doorway. "You look like you belong here." I smoothed the unfamiliar silk of my new gown self-consciously. "I feel like an imposter." His footsteps approached, and then he was beside me, his scent mingling with something new. Ink parchment, the metallic tang of armor. The day's business clung to him. "The council has been informed of your arrival," he said, taking the seat opposite mine, "as my guest of honor from the Forest Heart territory, a cultural envoy of sorts." "They believe that?" I asked, my brow furrowing. His soft laugh held little humor. "They pretended to, while immediately beginning to investigate your background, I'm sure." "Will they find anything of interest?" "Only that you're the daughter of Clara West, which may actually lend credibility to your presence here. Your mother's reputation still carries weight in certain circles." A pause. The council meets tomorrow morning. I want you there. My heart quickened. So soon. We have little time. The prisoner's information suggests their plans are already in motion. His voice lowered. I've dispatched my most trusted men to the mining tunnels he mentioned. If his family is there, we'll find them. And if they're not, then we'll know he was either lying or misinformed. His tone suggested he didn't believe either scenario. I twisted my pendant nervously. How should I behave tomorrow? What's my role in this meeting? Simply observe, listen, feel what remains unspoken. He leaned closer, his knee brushing mine. You'll be introduced as my honored guest, nothing more. The responsibility felt enormous. The fate of the kingdom potentially rested on my ability to sense deception among people I'd never met. What if I fail? I whispered. What if I can't discern who's loyal and who isn't? His hand covered mine, stilling its nervous movement. You won't fail. I've seen what you can do, Emma, even if you haven't fully recognized it yourself. The confidence in his voice was both reassuring and terrifying. You're placing tremendous faith in a gift I'm not sure I possess. Because I've felt its effects firsthand, he replied. His thumb traced circles on my palm, the intimate gesture sending shivers up my arm. Do you still not remember what happened between us? The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. I've had dreams, I admitted reluctantly. Fragments, impressions, but nothing concrete. His grip tightened slightly. Tell me. Just sensations. Your face beneath my fingertips. Words in my throat that didn't feel like my own, a compulsion I couldn't resist. I swallowed hard. But it feels more like remembering someone else's actions than my own. The old texts speak of this, he said quietly. How spirit-touched omegas sometimes channel something beyond themselves. The ancient wisdom of the pack, perhaps, or something even older. I shook my head, overwhelmed. This morning, I was just Emma the blind girl who needed help with everything. Now I'm supposedly some mystical figure from legend who may save the kingdom. It's too much. His laugh was gentle, surprising me. And I was just a second son, never meant for the throne, until my brother's assassination thrust me into a role I wasn't prepared for. His hand moved to cup my cheek. Sometimes fate thrusts greatness upon those who never sought it. The touch of his skin against mine sent warmth cascading through me. Something stirred in my memory. The same sensation, but stronger, more urgent. His face beneath my hands, his breath mingling with mine. I think I'm starting to remember, I whispered. His breath caught. Tell me. Your rage was like a physical thing, hot and sharp and dangerous. But beneath it was such pain, such loneliness. But the words came without self-conscious thought. I couldn't bear it. I had to reach you. Had to make it stop. You did, he murmured. Your voice cut through a rage my own brother couldn't penetrate in his final days. You found something in me I thought was long dead. His forehead pressed against mine, our breath mingling in the small space between us. For a moment I thought he might kiss me. Almost hoped he would, despite the madness of it all. Instead, he drew back with what sounded like reluctance. Rest now, he said, his voice regaining its composure. Tomorrow will test us both. After he left, I lay awake for hours, my mind racing with everything that had happened since that night in the gathering hall. How had my life changed so completely? In such a short time, and this pull toward Jackson, was it real? Or merely the product of legends and expectations? Morning came too quickly. Lydia helped me dress in something formal and restrictive, arranging my hair in what she called a style worthy of your position. What position is that exactly? I asked, amused, despite my nervousness. She hesitated. The king has shown you particular favor. That alone grants you status many here would envy. Her hand stilled on my shoulders. Be careful, my lady. Court is a dangerous place for the unwary. Before I could question her further, there was a knock at the door. Jackson had come to escort me to the council meeting. His hand on my elbow guided me through corridors that twisted and turned until I was thoroughly disoriented. The sounds of the palace grew louder, then muted again as we entered what must have been a different wing. "The council chamber has 7 members besides myself," he murmured as we walked. "Pay particular attention to Grant Ryder and Celine Hale. They've been most vocal about border security and military matters." I nodded, trying to commit the names to memory, as nervousness fluttered in my stomach. We stopped before heavy doors that groaned as guards pulled them open. The scent of the chamber hit me immediately. Old parchment, candle wax, polished wood, and the mingled sense of several people already inside. Conversation halted abruptly at our entrance. "Your Majesty," several voices acknowledged in unison, followed by the sounds of people rising from their seats. "My lords and ladies," Jackson's voice carried the full weight of his authority. "Allow me to present Lady Emma Steele of the Forest Heart Pack, daughter of Clara West." A tense silence greeted Jackson's introduction. I felt the weight of unseen gazes assessing me, judging my worth, in an instant. "Lady Emma Steele." A woman's voice finally broke the silence, smooth as honey, yet somehow lacking warmth. What an unexpected honor. We seldom receive guests from the outer territories, especially during such challenging times. "Lady Hale." Jackson acknowledged, his hand still firm on my elbow. "Lady Emma has provided valuable insights regarding the recent attacks. I believe her perspective will benefit our discussions." He guided me to a seat, presumably beside his own, at the head of what must have been a large table. The chair was ornately carved, uncomfortable against my back. "Valuable insights." This voice was male-aged with a hint of derision. "From a—" He stopped abruptly. "From a what, Grant?" Jackson's tone carried a dangerous edge. "Please complete your thought." The tension thickened. "From a blind Omega, from a nobody," the man finished, his voice dripping with disdain. "Sometimes the clearest perspective comes from those untainted by political ambition," Jackson replied smoothly. "Now shall we address the matter at hand? The coordinated attacks on our border territories suggest an organized effort to destabilize the kingdom." As the meeting progressed, I remained silent, focusing entirely on the voices around the table, on the subtle shifts in tone and scent and energy that accompanied each speaker. Grant Ryder spoke often, his voice carrying practiced authority. Celine Hale contributed less frequently, but with precise, pointed questions. 3 other counselors, Caleb Hart, Tessa Quinn, and Nora King, seemed genuinely concerned about the attacks, their emotions reading as authentic to my heightened senses. But there were 2 others whose reactions felt wrong. Lord Nathaniel's breath quickened every time certain locations were mentioned, while Lord Richard's mood soured at the mere mention of the mining tunnels. Their discomfort was palpable as the meeting stretched on for over an hour, discussing proposed strategies and the allocation of troops to vulnerable borders. Through it all, I carefully observed the unspoken tension in the room, mapping the delicate web of alliances and suspicions. By the time Damien concluded the meeting, my mind was filled with impressions, but certainty was still elusive. It wasn't until Lady Eleanor and Lord Vincent addressed me directly, as the chairs scraped back, that I was drawn from my thoughts. "I understand you were present when one of the attackers was interrogated." Lord Vincent said, his voice direct. "What was your impression of this rogue wolf?" His question felt like a carefully placed trap. I turned toward him. "My lord, my impression was of someone coerced, not committed," I replied. "A man forced to act against his nature, under threats to those he loved." "A convenient claim," Lord Vincent retorted. "One that shifts the blame to some shadowy conspiracy rather than a simple territorial dispute," I countered. "Simple aggressions don't require poisoned weapons, my lord, or coordinated strikes across multiple territories that carefully implicate others." A brief silence followed before Lady Miranda spoke, her tone reluctant. "The lady has a point." These attacks show a level of sophistication that goes beyond common bandits or territorial disputes. As the council members dispersed, Damien and I were left alone in the chamber. Once the heavy doors closed behind us, Damien spoke. "What did you sense?" His voice was low and urgent. "Lord Nathaniel and Lord Richard are hiding something," I said, my tone unwavering. "Their reactions when you mentioned the mining tunnels were telling. Particularly Lord Richard. His fear was palpable." "Not Lord Vincent?" Damien asked. "No, Lord Vincent seemed most opposed to your presence. His disdain was genuine, but that doesn't make him a traitor. Just a traditionalist who sees me as beneath notice." I frowned, recalling the subtle interplay I had observed between him and Lady Miranda. Though there is something between them, a tension beyond professional disagreement. Damien's hand covered mine on the table. "You've confirmed my suspicions about Richard. He's been pushing for reduced patrols near the northern mountains for months. What now?" "Now," Damien said, rising from his seat, "we give them rope to hang themselves with." Over the next few days, a careful game unfolded. Damien publicly assigned Lord Richard to oversee security for an upcoming diplomatic visit, a position requiring detailed knowledge of the king's schedule and movements. Meanwhile, I was introduced to court life through a series of carefully orchestrated appearances, always at Damien's side, always presented as his honored guest. But the whispers about my true role multiplied daily. "They're saying you're his mistress," Lydia informed me bluntly one morning as she dressed my hair. "Others claim you're a witch who's enchanted him. A few of the more romantic souls think you're his true mate, hidden away in the forest until now." I sighed, fingers tracing my mother's pendant. "And what do you believe, Lydia?" Her hands stilled for a moment. "I believe I've never seen the king look at anyone the way he looks at you, as if you're water in the desert." Before I could respond, a commotion erupted outside my door. Running footsteps, urgent voices. The door burst open without a knock. "Ellie!" Damien's voice was tense with suppressed emotion. "We found them. The prisoner's family." "They were where?" I asked, breath catching. "In the mining tunnels. Half starved but alive." Relief flooded through me. Then he was telling the truth. "Yes. And they've confirmed everything. Recruited by Lord Callan, who answers to someone on my council. They're being brought to the palace under guard." His hand found mine. "You were right. What about Lord Richard, Lord Nathaniel? Both mysteriously absent from court this morning." Damien's grip tightened. "Which confirms their guilt as surely as a confession." I frowned. "Or suggests they were warned." "Exactly my concern," he replied in a lowered voice. "There's to be a feast tonight, ostensibly to honor the diplomatic envoy arriving tomorrow. But in reality, it's a trap. Those loyal to me will have guards positioned throughout the hall. When Richard and Nathaniel appear, as protocol demands they'll be arrested publicly. If they appear," I cautioned. "They will," Damien said with confidence. "To absent themselves would be an admission of guilt. They'll come believing their conspiracies still hidden and walk straight into justice." The day passed in a blur of preparations. Lydia dressed me in midnight blue silk with silver embroidery, a gown worthy of a queen. She implied with a smile that made me blush. My hair was elaborately arranged, my mother's pendant prominently displayed at my throat, despite Lydia's suggestion of more formal jewels. "It protects me," I said, simply unwilling to part with this last connection to my mother. When Damien came for me as evening fell, his appreciation was evident in the catch of his breath when Lydia presented me. "You look," he seemed to search for words, "presentable." "Transcendent," he corrected softly, taking my hand. "Like the moon given human form." The grand hall hummed with the buzz of hundreds of voices as we entered, falling to hushed whispers at our arrival. Damien guided me carefully to a raised dais, seating me beside him in a place of honor undoubtedly raising eyebrows throughout the court. "Lord Richard has arrived," he murmured sometime later, his lips close to my ear. "Lord Nathaniel, too, though he keeps glancing toward the eastern exit." I nodded slightly, maintaining the appearance of a courtship while tension coiled within me. Throughout the elaborate meal, Damien kept me informed of subtle movements of guards shifting into position, of meaningful glances exchanged across the room. "It's time," he said, finally rising to address the gathering. Silence fell immediately. "My lords, ladies, honored guests," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly. "Recent events have cast a shadow over our kingdom. Attacks on our borders, threats to our peace. Tonight, I can announce that those responsible have been identified." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Lord Richard and Lord Nathaniel," Damien continued, his voice hardening, "step forward to answer for your treachery." Chaos erupted. Shouts, the scrape of chairs, the metallic song of swords being drawn. Damien's hand pushed me firmly back into my seat. "Stay here," he ordered. "Guards, protect Lady Eleanor." Then he was gone from my side, moving into the fray. Helplessness washed over me. Unable to see the danger, unable to help. The sounds of struggle intensified. A woman screamed, her voice high and filled with terror. "The king! They've struck the king!" My heart froze. Without a second thought, I sprang to my feet, pushing past the guards who tried to hold me back, instinctively moving toward where Damien must be. Hands caught at my gown, voices urged me to stop, but I tore free, driven by some inner force that pulled me to him. "Emma, no!" Lydia's voice rang out thick with fear. "They'll kill you too." But I didn't stop. I kept moving, led by something beyond reason. The crowd parted before me, whether from respect or shock I couldn't say. The scent of blood filled the air, sharp and unmistakable. "Damien," I called, abandoning all formality. "Here." His voice was strained, coming from the floor ahead of me. "I'm here." I dropped to my knees beside him, my hands searching until they found his body, his shoulder, his chest, and then the warmth spreading across his abdomen. "How bad?" I whispered, my voice barely a breath. "Not fatal," he grunted. "But the blade was poisoned. I can feel it spreading." Terror gripped me. "No, I won't lose you." Around us, I was vaguely aware of the ongoing struggle. Guards were subduing the traitors, shouts echoed for the royal healer. But my world had shrunk to the man before me. His laboring breaths, the poison coursing through his veins. Without thinking, I reached for my pendant, clutching it tightly, as my other hand pressed over his wound. Ancient words rose from my lips. Words in a language I'd never learned, yet somehow knew. Just as Damien had mentioned that night in the gathering hall, heat flared beneath my palm, spreading through my fingers and into his body. My sight, always clouded, suddenly flared with brilliant images, visions not with my eyes, but with something deeper, something spiritual. I could see the poison like black tendrils spreading within him. And then I saw the golden light flowing from my hand to fight it. "Emma," Damien gasped, his voice filled with awe. "Your eyes." I ignored him, focusing solely on the battle inside him, pushing more of the golden light toward the poison. My strength began to fade, the effort draining me, but I pushed on, pulling from reserves I hadn't known I had. "Enough," he whispered, his hand covering mine. "You'll kill yourself. Better me than you." I answered, my voice steady as I kept channeling the energy. His fingers tightened around mine. "No. The kingdom needs its king, and I need you." I said the words, slipping out before I could stop them. Something shifted between us in that moment, a silent understanding. The truth was clearer now than ever before. This bond between us was no coincidence, no manipulation. It was ancient, real, and meant to be. With one final push, I expelled the last of the poison from his body. As it vanished, my vision returned to its usual darkness. Exhaustion hit me all at once, and I slumped forward. But before I could fall, his strong arms caught me. "I've got you," he murmured against my hair. "I've always got you." In the days that followed, the conspiracy was unraveled. Lord Richard confessed under questioning, revealing a plot that stretched back to the former king's reign, an intricate, patient plan to destabilize the throne and put a puppet ruler in place. Lord Nathaniel and Lady Miranda were implicated as well, along with several other lesser conspirators across the territories. My role in saving the king became legend, whispered throughout the palace and beyond. The blind Omega who healed the poisoned Alpha King with nothing but touch and ancient words. The spirit-guided mate who balanced his fury with her calm and his strength with her insight. 1 month after the failed assassination, Damien found me in the palace gardens beneath a tree in full bloom, its fragrance reminding me of home. "The last of the conspirators has been sentenced," he said, sitting beside me. "The kingdom is secure again," he added, but I could hear the doubt in his voice. "For now," I replied. "Power always attracts those who would misuse it." His laugh was warm, genuine, something I'd heard more often in recent weeks. "That's why I need you beside me. Always." He took my hand, pressing something small and metal into my palm. It was a ring intricately carved, humming with significance. "The royal maid's ring," he explained softly, "last worn by my mother and her mother before her. It belongs to the Alpha King's true partner, his balance, his conscience, his heart." I traced the delicate patterns, a question in my eyes. "Are you certain the court will talk?" "The court already talks," he said with amusement. "They've been talking since the moment I carried you into the gathering hall after you collapsed. And you don't care." "I care only that you accept," he said, his voice turning serious. "Not just the ring, but everything it represents. The burden of rule, the weight of responsibility, and the knowledge that our union is both personal and political, a bond between mates and a symbol for the kingdom." I closed my fingers around the ring, feeling its weight, its rightness. I accepted my fate the moment I walked toward an enraged Alpha King instead of away from him, I said softly. Everything since has only confirmed what I think I knew, even then. Damien pulled me into his arms, his lips finding mine in a kiss that felt both new and familiar, as if we had shared such moments across many lifetimes. Perhaps we had been. "My beautiful blind seer," he murmured against my lips, "who sees more clearly than anyone with eyes ever could." And as I melted into his embrace, I silently thanked whatever fate had guided me to him from the shadows of invisibility into the light of purpose, belonging, and love. No longer just Emma the blind Omega, but Emma Steele, the Alpha King's chosen mate, his perfect counterpart, the calm at the center of his storm and somewhere beyond. I imagined my mother smiling, knowing this path had always been mine to walk.